nothing alters the architecture of your life like a switch. Yes, nothing alters the architecture of your life like a switch. And you see, the biggest regret is not the failure of the attempt, it is the dignity of the dream that died because you were too afraid to give it a chance to live by switch. Great evening, guys. Thank you so very much for joining us again on another exciting Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade. Yes, I am Mr. Upgrade, and this is the Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade. And you know, we do this every Sundays from 7 p.m. all through to 8 p.m. I'll basically get to do four things. Yes. Number one, we get to take your questions. So if you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to send in the questions and we'll gladly take them, right? Number two, we get to share with you the upgrade mastery tip for the week. And for this week, the upgrade mastery tip is switch. Yes, switch. Number three, we get to connect, network, and bond because we believe that people, the family members on the Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade, they come from around the globe. So it's important that we get to connect, network, and bond, right? Then number four, we get to have fun. Yes, we got to have fun because we strongly believe that if learning is not fun, there is no learning at all. So we got to have fun while we do the Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade. So I am super excited to have you guys join us again today for another time of learning, unlearning, and relearning. And trust me, you do not want to miss this session. What I appeal to you to do for us at this point is to take the link and share. Share with your friends, your families, your loved ones, and even your enemies because you don't want to miss the conversation that we're going to be having right about now. Today's conversation will literally change your perspective and give you a new lease of life when you are part of it. So do us the favor, share this with your friends, your family, your loved ones, and even your enemies so that they can be part of this conversation because there's so much to unpack on this gist for today. Okay, now on the Upgrade Live with Mr. Upgrade, while we wait for you to send in your questions, because we always love to take questions, and like we say, there are no wrong or right questions, they are just questions. And one thing that is critical is that questions are more important than answers. So while we wait for you to send in your questions, we're going to begin with our basic 5 questions. Now, these 5 questions help us to lay the foundation, help us to get the gist started, help us to begin the conversation so we can be able to help you to understand where we are driving at and where we are going to. So we're going to begin with our basic 5 questions to set the ball rolling for this conversation. So let's begin. Question number 1, right? What's a switch? When we say switch, what comes to your mind? You know, we said that nothing alters the architecture of your life like a switch. So when we say switch, what comes to your mind? What is it that it resonates for you when you hear the word switch? What does it make you remember? What does it bring to your memory? What does it bring to your mind when you hear the word switch? Right? I'll give you a few seconds so you can tell me what you know when you hear the word switch before I share with you what it is from the upgrade side of life, what switch actually is. So when you hear switch, what comes to your mind? When you switch, let's switch things up. What is it that actually comes to your mind? You see, from the upgrade side of life, we give a definition that you perhaps would not find anywhere. That's why we always tell our family members to pay attention to what it is that we share here, because you will not find it or hear it anywhere else, right? So switch. See, switch is a deliberate, fundamental redirection. It is a deliberate, fundamental redirection of energy, identity, trajectory, and loyalty. That is the switch. It is the deliberate, fundamental redirection of energy, identity, trajectory, and loyalty. This, my friend, this is the switch. So when you say someone has made a switch, it means the person has made a deliberate and fundamental redirection of energy, of identity, of trajectory, and of loyalty. For example, I'm a proud Manchester United fan, Man United, right? And then suddenly I make a switch from United to, let's say, Arsenal, which I will never do though, right? So it means I have made a deliberate, fundamental redirection of my energy, of my identity, of my trajectory, and of my loyalty. So I'm no longer a United fan, I'm now an Arsenal fan. I've made a switch. So the same thing in your life. When you make a switch, it is a fundamental, deliberate redirection. So you were going in that direction before, and then you make a switch, a redirection. And you see, we said at the beginning, nothing alters the architecture of your life like a switch, which means there's some points in your journey you would have to make a switch. Literally, you have to make a switch. You have to be that redirection. There have to be that shift of energy, shift of trajectory, shift of identity, shift of loyalty. You have to make that switch. Are you getting this, guys? Is this making sense? You know, last week we talked about conviction, part 2. And an offshoot of that conviction is that sometimes, even on your conviction, you may have to make a switch. Because I said that one of the good things you should be able to do is to be able to change strategy while executing strategy. That's you making a switch. You know, when David was going to fight Goliath, King Saul gave David his armor. David put it on, but David couldn't move. I said, no, I'm going to make a switch. I'm going to use what I have been used to. I'm going to get my sling and my stone. Are you getting this? So at certain points in your journey, you must get ready to make that switch. A fundamental, deliberate redirection of your energy, of your identity, of your trajectory, and of your loyalty. You must be ready to make that switch. Are you getting this? Is this making sense for you? Great. The second question is, who's responsible for switch? Who's responsible for switch? Now, we know what switch is. Who then do you think is responsible for switch? Who's responsible? The answer is you. Yes, you are responsible for switch. No one else is responsible for switch like you. You have to make that decision to make the switch. Yeah, sometimes life and the circumstances will push you or box you into a point where you have to make the switch. But before life boxes you in, you should be able to make that switch. Because you see, it's always best making switch from a vantage point than making switch from a disadvantage point. Are you getting it? Like I always say that the prodigal son did not need to feed with swine before he went back home. The moment he had finished his last penny, he should have gone home. But he waited till he was feeding with swine first before he made the switch. Are you getting it? So you don't have to wait till you are in a dire situation to make the switch. It's best you can make the switch from a vantage point than from a disadvantage point. But whichever is important to know that you are responsible to make the switch. You are responsible. No one else is responsible for switch like you. So who's responsible for switch? You are. Question 3. Why switch? Why do we have to switch? Why do we have to make this a conversation? Why do we have to switch? Why switch? You see, there are 3 reasons why switch that I'm going to share with you. Number 1 is a choice. You know, At some point in your journey, you have to make that choice for the switch. You have to make that choice, right? Circumstances may put you in a situation where you make the choice. Other times, you have to make the choice before circumstances take you there. Are you getting this? So you must understand that you have to make the choice for switch. You have to make the choice for switch. No one is going to make that choice for you. You have to make the choice. Are you getting this? You have to make the choice for switch. So, first reason why switch is a choice. You've seen your options. You've seen the things that are before you. You have to make the switch. Are you getting this? Now, second reason why switch is death and life. Now, when we say death and life, is because when it's time for make a switch, some things will have to die, while some things will have to come alive. You know, a good book says that except a corn of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. But when it dies, it brings forth much fruit. So which means when you make the switch, there are things that would naturally have to die because of that switch. And there are also things that will have to naturally come alive because of that switch. Are you getting this? So you must make up your mind that with switch, there will be death, there will be life. Some things will die, some things will come alive. That's it. Are you getting this, guys? Is this making sense? So with switch, there will be death and there will be life. Some things will have to die and some things will have to come alive. Does this make sense to you? So that's the second reason why switch, death and life. Some things would die while some other things would come alive. It's the switch. It's the switch. Because you cannot continue the same way when there's a switch. Some things would die while others would come alive. It's the switch. Are you getting this? Is this making sense? Okay, now you see, the third reason why switch is this is where you arrive at a point of no return. So when you make a switch, there's no going back. You know that song? I can never turn back. Oh, no, it's already too late. To no, it won't make sense. So where am I going to? When you make the switch, there's no turning back. It's at a point of no return. And you see, even if you try to return, the person who left is not the same person who's coming back. Because switch changes things about you. So with switch, it's point of no return, which means you begin a journey, you can never go back. That's switch. You can never go back. Just like they say in relationships, it's very unwise to go back to your ex. So with switch, you don't go back. When you've left a place, you've left. When you've moved on, you moved on. You don't go back because you've switched. Are you getting this? There's no going back. It's a point of no return. When you arrive at the point where you have to switch, there is no going back. Is this making sense to you? So the third reason why switch is a point of no return. No going back. We've moved on. We've moved on. This is it. The three reasons why switch. Number one is a choice. Number two, death and life. Number three is a point of no return. And like I say, even if you return, you are not the same person who left. You know, when Naomi left Israel and went to Moab, she left with her 2 sons and her husband. By the time she was coming back to Israel, she came back alone with her daughter-in-law, Ruth. Her 2 sons Her husband had died. It wasn't the same Naomi. In fact, Naomi said, do not call me Naomi, call me Mara. Call me Mara. Because she said, because I left full and I came back like this. So even if you return, the same person who returned is not the same person who left. Question number 4. What are the benefits of switch? What do you stand to gain when you switch? What are the benefits of switch? I'll tell you 3 benefits of switch. Number 1 is transition. One of the things that switch does to you is that it helps you in transitioning. You are becoming, right? You are transiting. Switch helps you to transition from one person to another person. There's a transitioning that happens in switch. I get in this. Abraham, who came out of his father's house, was not the Abraham who became father of many nations. There was a transitioning that happened in switch. One of the benefits of switch is the transitioning. You are no longer the same person who started the switch as the person in the switch. Transitioning occur. Are you getting this? So there's a transitioning that takes place in switch. Second benefit of switch is you are evolving. Because switch helps you in your becoming. So you are evolving. That's why I said earlier that even when you return back, it's not the same person who left that returns. You have evolved. Are you getting it? Switch helps in your evolving. Third benefit of switch, priorities. Switch helps you to now align your priorities. Because now you switch. You're focused more on what you believe are your priorities. So you're no longer doing what are frivolities. You're doing what are your priorities because you switch. So 3 benefits of switch. Number 1, transition. Number 2, evolving. And number 3, priorities. Now, question number 5. When is the best time to switch? When is the best time to make the switch? At what time should you make a switch in your life? When is the best time for you to make a switch in your journey? When is the best time for a switch? The best time for a switch is now. Now is the best time. Don't wait for life to cage you in. Don't wait for life to box you in. Don't wait for life to put you to the end of the rope. Now is the best time to make the switch. Yes, even if things are going as expected, now is the best time to make a switch. Even when things are not going as expected, now is the best time to make a switch. So when is the best time to make a switch? Now. Now. You see, you either make the switch or life will make the switch for you. Are you getting this? It's either you make the switch or life will make the switch for you. So it's best that you make the switch and not let life make the switch for you. Now is the best time. The last best time for anything was yesterday. The next best time for a switch is now. So with this being said, we'd like to now get into switch proper, right? We'd like to break down switch so that you get to really understand what it is that we are talking about here when it comes to switch. We're going to break this down and we'll talk about switch. Now is the best time to break down into switch itself, right? So switch, 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 right? Switch. Now, the S in switch is service, right? Service. Every switch begins with a service. You know, you are involved serving somewhere. When you switch, you're moving your service from where you are to somewhere else. Now, I mentioned the analogy before of being a Manchester United fan, which I am, and then I switch to being an Arsenal fan. Now, my service to Manchester United moves to Arsenal. That will never happen. Just an analogy, right? I'm just trying to paint a picture that you can relate with. I get it. So when you switch, your service moves from where you are to what you are switched to. I know service is the giving up of yourself faithfully towards the attainment of a goal without the expectation of reward. So you are moving away from where you used to put in service to where you have now switched to. So your service is the first thing that shifts when there's a switch. That's why we said that switch is the deliberate fundamental redirection. When something is redirected, it's moved away from where it used to be to where it is now. It's redirected. Redirection of your energies, of your identity, of your trajectory, and of your loyalty. So there's a switch. So switch begins by service. Whatever it is that you've been committed to serving before, when you make a switch, you leave that and start serving where you have switched to. Just like when you resign from an organization and go to another organization, your service now, because of the switch, comes with you to the new organization, not the organization you resigned from. Are you getting this? Is this making sense? So you make that switch. Your service leaves to where you switch to. The W in switch is the work. When you switch, work needs to be done. You have to put in the work. You have to put in the effort. You have to put in the commitment. You have to put in the dedication. You have to put in the zeal in the switch because there's work. There's work. You have to carry the place you switch to as everything. There's work. Switch is work. And I guess that's why a lot of people don't switch, because they're not willing to do the work that it demands when you switch. So the W is work. Work must be done when you switch. You know, when scripture says, except a corn of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. In the ground, the seed begins the work. The work begins in the ground when it dies before it's seen on the outside. So the W in switch is work. When you switch, the work switch. The I in the switch is intelligence. You see, when you switch, you're making an intelligent move. That's why it's a deliberate, fundamental redirection. Switch is out of intelligence. So it's time to leave here. It's time to go here. Intelligence. You don't do switch out of anger. You don't do switch out of malice or hate or strife. Intelligence. Because switch ought to be strategic. Are you getting this? Your switch ought to be strategic. I'll give you guys an example. You see, back in 2012, 2020, 2013 season in the English Premier League, Robin Van Persie, one of the prolific strikers for Arsenal, made a switch to Manchester United. Robin Van Persie at that time was seen as a legend in Arsenal. But he realized that Arsenal may never win a trophy, may never win the Premier League at that time. And he was getting to the end of his career. So he made a switch and he joined Manchester United. And the season he joined Manchester United, he won the English Premier League. That was an intelligent, strategic switch by Robin Van Persie. And that was even the last season for Sir Alex Ferguson. Because the season before that, he had just lost the league on the final day to Manchester City. That next season, he won the league with 13 points ahead of the second position. That was a season where Van Persie switched from Arsenal to Manchester United. And he won the league, and then he left the league. Are you getting this? So switch is intelligence. Are you getting it? Making a switch is an intelligent move. It's a strategic move. Because it's a fundamental redirection. Fundamental redirection. Oliver Percy in Arsenal was winning the Golden Shoe as highest goal scorer, but he wasn't winning the league. But he made the switch from Arsenal to Manchester United, and he won the league the very next season. Are you getting this? That's what happens with the switch, is intelligence, right? The C in the switch is creativity. When you switch, you bring in your creativity to where you switch to. Your intellect, your creative juices, you pour it in where you switch to. So there's a creativity that shows up that you switch. See this, guys, if you understand this, you realize that you shouldn't be in a place for so long. Make the switch. Make the switch. That's why I see some people in their careers, every 4 years, they're leaving an organization, going to another one. They're making the switch. They're going on with their creativity. You make the switch. And the H in the switch is your hunger. The reason you make a switch is because of how hungry you are for more, how hungry you are for excellence, how hungry you are to become a better you. You make the switch. Van Persie was hungry to win the English Premier League, and he switched from Arsenal to Manchester United, and he won the league the very season he switched. The hunger is critical for your switch. So this is what switch is. The service, the work, the intelligence, the time. Oh, I missed the T earlier. The time. Switch must be done on time. Switch must be done on time. Don't wait till it's too late. Make the switch on time. Like Robin Van Persie, make the switch on time. He had been a prolific striker for Arsenal for some seasons, and he realized that it was time to leave. And the season he left, the next season, he won the league. Make the switch on time. There's a timing to switch. There's a timing to switch. Make that switch on time, and you'll be glad you did, right? And then there's a creativity, and then there's the hunger. This, my friends, this is what switch is about. And when you understand this, it changes the trajectory of your life completely. It changes the trajectory of your life completely when you understand this, knowing that it is in your hands to make the switch for your life. Don't wait till circumstances make switch happen for you. You decide and make the switch happen for yourself. Are you getting this? Is this making sense? Now, the 3 things about switch. 3 things about switch. Number 1, character. Number 2 is courage. And number 3 is confidence. These are 3 critical things about switch. Number 1 is the character. See, it takes a certain level of character to make switch. Because sometimes people are going to tell you, it's okay, you're good where you are. It's okay, you don't need to. No. It takes character to make a switch. I'll tell you this for free. It takes character to make a switch. Number 2, it takes courage. It takes courage. So many times some people are going to talk you out of it. They're going to tell you there's no point. You're good where you are. It's okay, remain here. It takes courage to make switch. And number 3, it takes confidence to make switch. You're certain of where you're going, you're going to be better than where you are now. You're certain that who you're becoming is always going to be better than this version of you now. So 3 things about switch: character, courage, confidence. These are very critical things about switch. Now, there are two traits of switch. Two traits of switch you should always look out for. Two traits. Number one, belief. Number two, risk. These are two traits of anyone who makes a switch. First, they have a belief. Next, they are willing to take the risk. You see, life happens that risk must be taken. But you must first have the belief in order for you to make and take the risk. You must first have the belief in order for you to take and make the risk. So there's the belief that you have that this is the best thing to do at this time for your life. And then there's the risk you're willing to take to get that thing done actually. Are you getting this? So the two traits of switch is the belief and the risk. The belief and the risk. The one goal of switch is change. When you make the switch, everything changes. Nothing remains the same. The one goal of switch is change. Things change completely. Nothing remains the same. Everything changes. Everything changes. Nothing remains the same. With the switch, there is a change. There's a change. You leave where you are to somewhere else. There's a change when it comes to switch. See these guys. Nothing helps you let go of the familiar or the old like a switch. You know, some things are you're very familiar with some things that become old. But nothing helps you let go of the old and the familiar like a switch. Just make the switch. You let go of the old and the familiar to the new when you make the switch. You see, like the example I use of football, Robin Van Persie left Arsenal, which was familiar. He was the top goal scorer for some seasons, to Manchester United. He made the switch, and then he won the English Premier League with Manchester United. Are you getting this? So nothing helps you let go of the familiar and the old like a switch. Are you getting this? Now, a switch Okay, so apologies for that switch, right? Like I was saying, when Robin Van Persie left Arsenal, he switched to Manchester United, and that season he won the league. Why am I saying this? Nothing helps you let go of the familiar and the old like a switch. And you see, switch is always a 180-degree change. 180. You know, they say you have to do 360. Now, when you do a 360 change, you arrive back at where you left. 360 is a full circle. You arrive back at where you left. That's 360. But 180, you've left where you are, you've arrived somewhere else. 180 degree. Are you getting this? 180 degree. So switch is always a 180-degree change. You 180 degree. See this. There's some biblical examples of switch that I want to share with you, right? And I hope that this would help you. Remember, Abraham, he switched from Abram to Abraham. Right? He made that switch. God called him out of his father's house. Abraham left not knowing where he was going. That was the switch. God has called his father Terah, but Terah moved and stopped. When God called Abraham, Abraham kept going and never looked back. Are you getting this? So you must be willing to make the switch, just like Abraham did, and moved on with God. He said he was searching for a city that has foundations, whose builder and maker was God. The switch, right? Look at Ruth. Ruth made the switch. Her mother-in-law Naomi told her, return back to your people. I have no son for you. Even if I give birth to a son today, will you wait till he's old for you to marry him? There's no future here. But Ruth was willing to make the switch. He says, wherever you go, I will go. Your people will be my people. Your God will be my God. Wherever you die, that's where I want to be buried. Ruth made the switch. And the rest is history. She is in the genealogy of Jesus. Ruth, a Moabite. Because of that switch, she was engrafted into the lineage of Jesus. Are you getting this? So you see, that switch is critical. Ruth made the switch. Oprah, her other sister-in-law, went back. Because there were two of them, Ruth and Oprah. Oprah went back when Naomi told them to go. But Ruth says, entreat me not to leave you. Do not convince me to leave you. Wherever you go, I will go. That's not making the switch. Your people be my people. Your God be my God. Where you die, that's where I want to be buried. Ruth made that switch. Today, there's not only just a book of her in the Bible, she's also in the genealogy of Jesus. Because she met Boaz and they gave birth to Obed. And Obed was the grandfather of Jesse, who was the father of David. Because Ruth made a switch. Are you getting this? Another person who made a switch was Jonah. God told Jonah to go to Nineveh. Jonah made a switch and took a ship going to Tarshish. And you know what happened? There was a raging storm on the sea, and Jonah was thrown overboard. And God sent the fish to swallow Jonah. In the belly of the fish, Jonah repented and made a switch. Like, okay, he's going to go to Nineveh now. So Jonah is a clear example of how you can make the switch for the wrong thing and then still make the switch for the right thing. But what is critical is that Jonah made a switch. First, he switched. Instead of going to Nineveh, he was going to Tarshish. And then he encountered the storm. He was thrown overboard, and then he was swallowed up by a fish, and was in the belly of the fish for 3 nights. And then he made the switch. And God commanded the fish to vomit him at the shore of Nineveh. And he went to do what God had instructed him to do in Nineveh. So Jonah is a clear example of you can make switch for the wrong and then you can come back and make switch for the right. What is important is that there is a switch. Are you getting this? Another example is Paul. Paul was persecuting the church, making havoc of the church. Then on his way to Damascus, he encountered Christ and he made a switch. The same one who persecuted the church was now propagating the gospel. The switch. The switch. So it doesn't matter where you are now in your journey. You can always make the switch. You can always make the switch. That's why I'm using this analogy so you can see that it's possible to make the switch. It is. The same Paul that was persecuting Christians became a chief propagator of the gospel. The switch had happened. And Peter denied Jesus 3 times. Yes, Jesus appeared to Peter again after the resurrection and asked Peter the same question: do you love me more than these 3 times? To cancel out every time that Peter had denied him, Peter had made the switch. Are you getting this? So you see that regardless of where you are in your journey, a switch is possible. A switch is possible. Right? In your journey of becoming, you have to make a switch. You have to make a switch. In that journey of becoming, you have to make a switch. You see, your life would expand or shrink to the degree that you make a switch. I'll say that again. Your life will expand or shrink to the degree that you make a switch. So the question now is, are you ready to make a switch? Are you ready to make a switch? That's the question that I leave you to ponder on and answer. Are you ready to make a switch? And you see, the switch would help you to reframe. When you switch, it helps you to reframe. Your thinking changes. The things that are reframed about you when you switch, your thinking changes. Switch helps you to reframe. Helps you reframe. Because in the middle of every difficulty lies an opportunity. So when you're making the switch, it may look like it's a difficulty, but in that difficulty lies opportunity. So switch helps you to reframe your mind from seeing the difficulty as a result of the switch to seeing the opportunity because of the switch. It helps you to reframe. And you see, the person you become after the switch is not the same person before the switch. Abraham was not the same Abraham. Paul was not the same Saul that persecuted the church. Ruth was not the same Ruth that went to Israel. So you see, the person that you become is not the same person before the switch. Not the same person. Who Abraham was before God called him out of his father's house, Genesis chapter 12, was not the same person in Genesis 25 when God said, and Abraham, God had blessed him in all things. Was not the same person. The Ruth that was in Moab was not the same Ruth that was in Israel. Not the same person. There's a significant change that happens to you when you switch. That's why I said earlier, except a corn of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it abides alone. But when it dies, it brings forth much fruit. The person you become after the switch is not the same person before the switch. There's a massive transformation that has taken place. Massive transformation. Massive transformation. And you see this, guys, switch is like metamorphosis. You understand metamorphosis? Where there is a radical transformation from what it used to be to what it now is. I'll give you an example with the butterfly. See, it moves from the egg to the larva to the caterpillar and then to the butterfly. In the caterpillar stage, it has legs where it crawls on the ground. But in the butterfly stage, it has wings where it flies. So it has to get into a cocoon to evolve from a caterpillar into a butterfly. That is a switch. Are you getting this? That's a switch. Switch is like metamorphosis. Remember the caterpillar that becomes the butterfly. It goes through switch. It could choose to remain a caterpillar all his life, or it could choose to switch to become a butterfly. The same thing with you. You could either remain caterpillar or you could become butterfly. But switch is like metamorphosis. There's a radical transformation that takes place. See, switch is the death to the old self and the birth to the new and true self. I'll say that again. Switch is the death to the old self and the birth to the new and true self. Switch. Death to old self and birth to the new and true self. And you see this, guys, if you stay static, you don't just stay in the same place, you actually fall behind. You know, I always say this a lot, and I say that there are no stagnation in life. You're either making progress or retrogress. There's no stagnation. There's no stagnation. So we are just stagnant. No. You're either making progress or retrogress. So you don't stay static. You don't stay in the same place. You're actually falling behind. That's why you must make a switch. It's not about fixing what is broken. It's not about fixing what is broken. It is the engine of a fully realized life. So, okay, it's broken, so let's fix it. No. Making a switch is not about fixing what is broken. It is the engine of a fully realized life. You're living life to its full. That's why you're making the switch. Not because something is broken. No. You realize you can live life to its full. And that's what you're willing to do. Hence, you're making the switch. See this, guys. When it comes to making the switch, you must avoid the slow boil. You know, remember that analogy of the frog in the pot, right? If you put the frog in the pot of hot water, the frog will jump out. But if you put the pot in water and you put the frog in it, the frog will stay in the water. Then when you start to heat up the water gradually, the frog will start to adjust itself to the current heat in the water. But by the time the water starts to boil, the frog can no longer escape. It dies in the water. So when it comes to switch, avoid the slow boil where you are gradually adjusting, you are adjusting to the point where you can no longer make a switch. You become like that frog that dies in the hot water. Because initially, if the frog is put in hot water, it makes a jump. It leaves. If the frog is put in the cold water, and the water starts being heated up gradually, the frog starts to adjust itself to the current temperature of the water. And when the water starts to boil, the frog itself gets boiled. Avoid the slow boil. Avoid it. Know when it's time for you to make the switch and make the switch. Instead of adjusting, switch. I'll say that again. Instead of adjusting, switch. Don't adjust, make the switch. When you adjust, end up in the slow boil. Are you getting this? This is making sense. Now you must learn to close the gap. That's what the switch does. It helps to close the gap between who you are and who you can be. The switch helps you to close that gap between who you are and who you can be. And you see, when it comes to you, always tell you that there's the version of you that you need to upgrade into. That's why we always say that there's always more on the upgrade side of life. There's a version of you that you need to upgrade into. There's a version of you. This version can be better. There's a version of you you need to upgrade into. That's why you need to make the switch, so you can close the gap between who you are now and who you can be. That gap is the switch. And you see, the market, the world, and life would demand switch. They'll demand switch. And let me tell you how biology calls switch adaptation. Right? Business calls switch relevance. Life calls switch growth. So you see, the market, the world, and life would demand switch. To demand switch. And see, if you don't switch proactively, you would regret reactively. If you don't make the switch proactively, you would regret reactively. You regret. And you see, switch helps you discover yourself more. It helps you discover yourself more. You discover your capabilities, you discover your relevance, you discover your creativity you never knew you had until you switch. So switch helps you discover yourself more. Things about you you never knew. With switch, you get to discover yourself more. Your capabilities, your relevance, your creativity, what you never knew you had. Switch helps you discover it more. And you see, to avoid the death of many somedays, you should make the switch. Your future matters more than your comfort. Never forget that. Your future matters more than your comfort. So make the switch. Make the switch. Right? Don't live a life of regret when you can make the switch. See, don't wait for the perfect moment to make the switch. Make the moment. Take the moment and make it perfect. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Take the moment, make it perfect, and switch. Are you getting this? Don't wait for the perfect moment. Take the moment, make it perfect, and switch. And switch. And see, when you don't make the switch to become who you truly are, you spend the rest of your life performing the role that others assign to you. When you don't make the switch to become who you really are, you spend the rest of your life playing the role that others assign to you. So in other words, making the switch helps you truly take charge of your life. It helps you truly take charge of your life when you make the switch. And you see, there are three simple ways for you to make the switch. I know you've been wondering, now you talked about switch. How do I begin? How do I make the switch? I'll tell you the three simple ways for you to begin to make the switch. Number one, your personal development. The moment you start getting yourself involved in your personal development, you're on your journey of making the switch. Your personal development, your personal growth, you're on your journey of making the switch. Number two, your identity and authenticity. You realize your identity and you know you must maintain your authenticity. You're already on your path of making that switch. People know you for who you are and you stay true authentically to who you are. You're making that switch because a lot of people don't know who they are. A lot of people are not authentic. So your identity and authenticity helps you in making that switch. This is who I am. This is what I represent. This is what I stand for. These are my convictions. I am authentic in this. Helping you make that switch. The third thing that helps you to make the switch is having mentorship or coaching. It's always wise to learn from someone who has done twice what you're trying to do once. Mentorship and coaching helps you making the switch. Mentorship, coaching. Right, so get a mentor, get a coach. It helps to fast track the switch. Get a mentor, get a coach. It helps you to fast track that journey of your switch. So these are three simple things that would help you in making the switch. Your personal development, your identity and authenticity, and mentorship and coaching. When you really want to make a switch, these three simple things would help you. So you are not stranded in an island of nowhere. Are you getting this? And you see, you will live to regret why you didn't make a switch. You always live to regret why you didn't make a switch. One of the things that making a switch helps you do is to minimize the regrets that you have. Because you will live to regret why you didn't make a switch. Guys, pay attention to this. You see, there's some people who drift. They just go with the wind, go with the flow, they drift. There are some people who switch. Don't drift, switch. Are you getting this? Don't drift, switch. It's a huge difference. It's a big decision. Don't just drift, make the switch. And you see, the version of you exists when you make the switch. There's a version of you that exists when you make a switch. This version is good, but another version awaits when you make the switch. You saw Abraham, you saw the version that evolved when he made the switch. You saw Ruth, you saw the version that evolved when she made the switch. You saw Peter, you saw the version that evolved when he made the switch. You saw Jonah, you saw the version that evolved when he made the switch. You saw Paul, you saw the version that evolved when he made the switch. Now it's up to you. There's a version that awaits you when you make the switch. The question now is, are you ready to make the switch? Are you ready? Guys, this is it. This is our conversation for now. I hope that this has helped you, this has inspired you, and this has challenged you to be able to go on and make that switch that needs to be made. See this, guys. It is in your best interest that you make a switch. Always in your best interest, right? Because there's a version of you that evolves when you make a switch. This you is good, but there's something great when you make the switch that awaits you. You see, the treasure you seek is in the cave you fear to enter. Let go of the fear and make the switch for yourself. You'll be glad you did because of who you will become as a result of the switch. Yeah. I know, like we always tell you guys, our family members, we always tell you this. The three things will happen for you in this new week, right? Number one, increased voice of God. Number two, open heavens over your life. And number three, more angelic activities in all that you do. Remember, there's always more on the upgrade side of life. That's why we encourage you that you leave good behind so that you can upgrade. And what better way for you to upgrade than for you to make the switch? It's on you guys to be or not to be. To switch or not to switch is entirely up to you. Question now is, would you switch? Would you switch? So guys, this is it. This is where we draw the curtain for today's conversation. Like we always tell you, do well to like, subscribe, and share. You just never know whose life you'll be blessing because you liked, you subscribe, and you shared, because they get to see this. More people get to see this when you do that, right? And also, intentionally take the links and share on your group chats, on your WhatsApp status, on places where you know people need to hear this. Share this with them, because sharing is caring. And you never know who, because you shared, will make a switch for their lives. They may never tell you, but the record in heaven will show that you were the reason why they made that switch in their life. So guys, thank you so much for watching. God bless you.